I'm Dennis Galucki, and welcome to the 383rd Imagine Buffalo program, and another virtual Imagine lecture hosted by the downtown Buffalo and Erie County Public Library. Thank you so much for joining us today. This program is created by the Center for the Study of Art and Architecture, History and Nature, or simply Cezanne, and ImagineLifelongLearning.com. We're going to start with our speaker shortly, but first, a little housekeeping. Everyone watching will be muted during our speaker's presentation, which will last about 15 to 20 minutes. We'll have plenty of time for questions at the end. If you have a question, please type it into the chat box and we'll get to as many as we can. This program is being recorded. You'll be able to watch it again later on the library's Facebook and the library's YouTube channel pages. As a reminder, we'll be here on Zoom every Tuesday at 12:30 p.m. with a great lineup of local speakers. Today, on the third Tuesday of the month, we focus on Buffalo's history to better imagine our community's future. Our featured speaker is John Montague. John arrived in Buffalo in 1984 to set up SUNY College at Buffalo's Design History program, where he is now Professor Emeritus. At the college, he was co-founder of the Center for Watercraft Studies. At the time of his retirement in 2006, he helped form the Buffalo Maritime Center, which not only focuses on the collection, research, and restoration of historic watercraft of the Niagara frontier, but also uses boat building as a vehicle for STEM training: science, technology, engineering, and math, STEM. So that training and community outreach programs. Trained as an art and architectural historian, he has worked as a designer, film animator, illustrator, and boat builder, and has been active in architectural preservation and urban planning, and heavily involved in Buffalo's waterfront redevelopment and revitalization. Now, let's welcome John Montague, who will be talking about the Longshed project at the Central Wharf at Canalside.
Okay, am I on here?
You are, John. Take it away.
Okay, good. All right. I'm happy to be here, and again, Dennis, I want to thank you for doing this all these years, keeping these programs going. This is really a great asset for Buffalo. I am really excited. Of course, over the last weekend, we just opened up the Longshed, and let me share some images here. If I can, have you got that now? All right. We, as you may know, last Thursday, we opened up the Longshed. There was a ribbon cutting with various notable characters there from Buffalo that were involved with this. There was a cover story in the paper, which you may have seen, and some of your listeners are probably aware of what's been going on down there. But this is a real high point in a long and rather tortuous process. Buffalo has been working on its waterfront for many, many years, and it was one of the first things that I got involved with when I came to Buffalo and thought, oh my God, this city has got, what an incredible setting this has. So that's been a kind of in the back of my mind even before I got heavily into the boat issues itself. But what we did was to open up the Longshed, which is an absolutely exquisite building. It's beyond our expectations, and after all the time we worked with the architects and with the Erie Canal Harbor Development, so forth, developing the plans and design for it and so forth, it could not be better. We're really quite thrilled. For those of you who don't know really what this is all about, I mean, people have been watching this thing behind screens for quite a while. Inside of this building, we're going to be building a replica of the packet boat Seneca Chief, which was the boat that opened up the Erie Canal. And of course, the whole issue of the Erie Canal is really quite prominent now because we're heading toward the bicentennial. It was 2025 will be the bicentennial of the opening of the Erie Canal, when October 26, 1825, DeWitt Clinton, who was the mastermind behind the Erie Canal, set out with a group of people from Buffalo and other dignitaries in a flotilla, left Buffalo with a bucket of Lake Erie water, went down the Erie Canal to New York City and off Sandy Hook, poured that water into the Atlantic, celebrating the opening of the Erie Canal and celebrating particularly the connection of the East Coast to the Midwest. For those of you again who are not really kind of up to speed, perhaps have not been thinking a lot about the Erie Canal, you'll hear more about that as we progress toward the bicentennial. But just a quick word of background to this. This is one of the most significant developments in American history. And in Buffalo, we are really the recipients of much of this history. And certainly it's a phenomenon that actually created and built Buffalo. So it's very significant to us personally and as a city and civically and so forth, but also to the world. What the Erie Canal did was to connect the East Coast, what had originally been the 13 colonies on the East Coast, with the vast resources of the Midwest. That had some good sides and some bad sides, like all historical events, wars and various events. There's a dark side to this and a positive side to this. And what we want to do with the bicentennial is to really commemorate that. We need to raise these issues about what were the issues that were, what were the good things, what were the bad things. We look at the real picture. One of the things that I think is really significant that people really kind of need to understand is that not only did the Erie Canal create Buffalo was only 2,400 people when the Erie Canal opened up here, but it also was really responsible for making New York City, New York City. I mean, New York was smaller than Philadelphia and Boston at the time, and it was bringing the wealth of the Midwest down to New York City that really made New York City the financial capital. It was also the road of immigrants that came up from New York City and filled up Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and the Midwest. Had a lot of effects in the Civil War and so forth. We don't have time to go into the implications of that, but except to remember that this is really a very, very significant event. In addition to that, of course, it was an engineering marvel. I mean, people around the world thought, oh my God, no one had ever built a canal this long. And particularly, what's amazing about it, it was built by amateurs. People really, he didn't know what they were about. They had a problem. They had to figure out how to solve the problem. That is, a lot of people trace the American notion of ingenuity and self-reliance on these kinds of concepts. But the point was that for Buffalo, that the goal of that canal was to get to Buffalo. First, Black Rock, there's a big controversy, but that ended up being Buffalo. Buffalo kind of prepared the way for it. Wilson and some others, made sure that the harbor was useful. Anyway, 1825, they dug their way all the way to Buffalo. And the picture you're looking at here from 1825, you can see here's the Buffalo River, Buffalo Creek, it actually was at the time. And down here, I don't know if you can see my pointer, but down here is the Erie Canal coming in and making its right-hand turn, which is now the Explore More is right here. The Naval Park is right here, going down here and meeting the river. So that point right there is what I like to call the sacred site. This is the point where the water of the lakes and that whole vast system of 1,000 miles into the center of the country is connected with the Atlantic Ocean. Now, this, as I said, Buffalo was only a city of about 2,400 people at the time. Within about years, it was up to about 40,000. After that, it jumped to 80,000. All of a sudden, this was clearly a bustling center where trade people were coming from the east with manufactured goods, with immigrants going from the west with raw materials and so forth. And then all along the Erie Canal, towns were popping up. but all of this had to be funneled through Buffalo. So Buffalo became really the axis of this whole Western development, and consequently, it made fortunes for many people. It created many businesses. People talk about Wells Fargo and Bank of America and so forth, all kind of coming out of this tremendous commercial center. What you're looking at here is a representation of the Central Wharf, which is now where Canalside is now. I mean, most of it's open. On one end is going to be the carousel, and the other end is going to be the center where we're building the boat. Here's another view of it. You can see here's the Central Wharf down here, running along here. It was a wonderful kind of New Orleans style, sometime triple veranda. Here's the corner where the commercial slip comes out and joins the river. That's that sacred spot I'm talking about. This is where the Naval Parks is today. And this is a building, we'll talk about this a little bit later, hidden behind this smoke coming out of the chimney here. That's where the Longshed is. Buffalo Creek was relatively narrow when it started. It was eventually, because the harbor needed to be larger, they cut another channel, the ship channel on the other side, leaving several islands in the middle, which they cut through. And this, of course, was great for cross-loading. The big ships would come in from the lake. They would transfer onto canal boats. The canal boats would then go down the commercial slip, make a left-hand turn, and head to Lockport and to New York City. So there was through the 90s, so the late 80s and 90s, and even well before that, there was an interest in somehow reviving the neighborhood, reviving the waterfront. And this had been, the area had kind of fallen into decay. It had, when the commercial traffic ended, Buffalo had a number of downturns. Of course, this became kind of a neglected area. When I came to Buffalo in '84, I was thrilled to see that Buffalo was a waterfront city. I mean, I'd grown up on the water, and I just, I had not been so aware of that until I got out on a sailboat and looked back at the city and saw, oh my God, this place looks like Oz from the water. So I became very interested early on in all of these projects. And by the the mid 90s and so forth, many of us were planning on different ways that we could access the water of the Maritime Center, which I was heavily involved with at that time, and still am. Was always looking for a place where could we have access to the water, where could we kind of get involved with this. And of course, we were going at that time through the early stages of the archaeology of finding where the canal actually was. It had been buried. And there were a lot of controversy about this, about digging it up, and you may remember some of those stories and so forth. But that did actually turn into this. And this became, by the year 2000, 2001, this became a real center for focus. And when the Erie Canal Harbor Development Corporation was developed, and how are we going to deal with this land? How are we going to approach this? Many of us in the kind of preservation community and with historical interests and so forth said, this is a gem here, that we've got something here which we really need to exploit. And that is the history, the core history of Buffalo, and actually a core history of the nation. So this, and I just want to point out that this view, we're looking from the Canalside bridge there, the waterfalls, looking toward that spot where the canal touches or runs into the river, the Buffalo River. That's the sacred spot right there. That's the place. You can draw a circle around it. That's where the East Coast met the Midwest. And we basically had nothing there before. We have just this is where the canal comes out. So that seemed to be a place to build around. And so we've through various committees with the Erie Canal Harbor Development Corporation and the different civic groups and so forth, we started working the history of this area. We were able, with cooperation of ECHDC, to keep some of our historic boats down there. I mean, here you can see some War of 1812 bateaus. We have our electric boat down here, some of our historic boats. The Hillmans came into town with the Spirit of Buffalo, which adds a wonderful kind of visual to this. So for many years now, we have been using this as the canal slip as a kind of a historic pictorial setting. And this is the kind of thing we wanted to promote. We had done plans for that, again, submitted to the various powers that be and the various planning agencies and so forth, to try to develop this whole area as a historic site, or at least have the ambiance of a historic setting, and try in some measure to kind of recreate, without completely obviously replicating, but complement the historical setting and atmosphere and environment. This is a drawing I did early on. We had a plan working with a local developer to develop these buildings along the side that used to be there, and trying to work out programs where we could have restaurants, retail, and historic museums, literally kind of woven out. This is over the ruins. Over on the south side of that, which would be up to visitable by people, with a kind of a dance hall up above. But a main feature of this, or a serious feature of this, was the idea of putting in canal boats, or having some historic boats that were directly related to this scene. And this was a drawing I did earlier. I think, well, we ought to have a packet boat, which is a passenger boat. We ought to have a freight boat. We still think this is true. We still think we should do this. But so people would come down and they'd get some sense of what this was. Now, our idea was, from a marketing point of view, that this would be a great way for the city to kind of focus on what it was, focus on its origins, focus on its identity with the Erie Canal. That was something unique that Buffalo had. So that's something unique that Buffalo could do. I mean, if you ask, people in Charleston, South Carolina, like what's Charleston, South Carolina all about? They show you that row of houses on the Battery. I mean, cities have identities that are focused on something very specific, and usually something photographable. So we've set about continuing, actually been doing this for a long time, but continue to work on research on Erie Canal boats, and particularly the packet boat. We thought a significant boat to build would be if we could find out information on DeWitt Clinton's boat that was built in Buffalo, called the Seneca Chief, by Thaddeus Joy, one of the builders of the waterfront, one of the builders of the commercial wharf and so forth. Thaddeus Joy built this boat on a little creek that was right under where the hockey rink is right now. So that seems significant. Let's try to build that boat. So we got as much information as we could. We've actually been researching this. Well, I've been working on this probably since about 95. There's not a lot of information on this, but much information can be implied and drawn from various drawings, verbal descriptions, and so forth. I just want to show you some examples of that kind of research. There are lots of varieties of boats, but by putting them all together, this is before photography, of course. So there weren't any photographic images that we had. Photography doesn't come in until the 1840s. I mean, several years after the canal was finished. So you had to do a lot of interpretive work from images of drawings and so forth. Eventually, what happened was there were all kinds of other issues going on at the Erie Canal Harbor and at Canalside, and they were just not ready to do this kinds of project yet. So we were seduced to Lockport, who wanted to build a packet boat up there. So we went up there. They actually ended up with a grant they had to actually pay for finished drawings of a canal boat, which is what we did. We thank them for that, and we're still partners with them in this whole project. We then having plans which were, Coast Guard approved naval architectural drawings and so forth, we were able to start actually working on the boat, even though we didn't have a place to put it yet. And the Lockport project kind of fell through, but we built another boat for them. We built a 50-foot boat that they're using in the Flight of Fives when they're doing the restoration of that. So we're back to Buffalo with our plans. So let me just show you, these are some of the projects. We have to draw the boat full size. From the full size, we build the backbone. We cut out all of the parts and so forth. Basically, this is the puzzle of how the whole thing's put together. Then in a couple of years, we end up with the finished boat. So we have all of this. We have the plans, we have the know-how. We have at the Maritime Center, we have two expert professional boat builders know how to do this work. Plus, from the Lockport experience, we have a set of volunteers, probably 40 volunteers plus others. And I will say one of the things that we really wanted to do, we wanted to make this a public project, just as we did with the Lockport project, get as many people from the community working on this as possible and having a hand in it. So that was the kind of situation that we were in. We were trying to figure out a way to kind of get this built down at Canalside. This seemed to be the obvious place to do it. So we were looking for inexpensive building. Maybe we could just build a temporary building like one of these temporary sort of ugly metal buildings, get the boat built inside, take the building down, unbolt it, move it somewhere else, and launch the boat. So that was kind of the state that we were in. We had sort of determined that there were basically, in an ideal world, and we thought we were just dreaming at this time, there were like 3 locations. We could do it. The ideal place would be right here next to the sacred site, or in one of the fields over here somewhere under the skyway, or over the ruins. And we did a number of permutations of building over the ruins and keeping the ruins open for interpretation and so on. One idea that came up shows you how kind of wildly and widely we were thinking. There was some indication that maybe the Naval Park wanted to unbolt and dismantle it's a hangar building, the red building behind the Naval Park. So I did a drawing here of setting up a platform, building it on that, and then again moving it after the project was over. Then something magical happened, again, you have to understand the complexity of all the forces that were going on here to in this context, in this situation. I mean, Erie Canal Harbor Development Corporation had all kinds of things on its plate, all kinds of forces moving around the city, the state, the other groups, developers, and so forth. I mean, literally a nightmare of complexity. And then here we come with this plans for building a boat. Well, in the middle of all of that, we started sort of working the public communication. We wrote articles about this, trying to promote the idea, trying to get some groundswell of interest from the community in this because of its importance in terms of the heritage of Buffalo, giving a focus to the Canalside and so forth. So in the midst of our doing that, I wrote a couple of articles, and several articles were written in the paper. Actually, the board of the Buffalo News got on board. This was a good idea, and basically said, I think you ought to build the boat. Well, this fella right here happened to read those things in the paper and came by one day to the boat shop in our boat shop up in Black Rock. Long story short, he says, I'll pay for the boat. And of course, our jaws dropped. Like, oh my God, can this possibly be? So when we finally recovered ourselves and pulled ourselves back up on the chairs, we immediately called around to kind of announce that we have the money to build the boat. And that appealed to a lot of other people who were kind of on the fence about this. And they said, okay, let's do this. Let's do this. So we had some other sources that came in, and it looked like it was a going concern. And then it was at this point too that we were looking for where to put the boat. And I have to say, we were just thrilled that Erie Canal Harbor Development Corporation came and said, that's a good idea. Let's, build a boat and build it there. I said, really? Okay, that's great. And they said, and not only that, they said, we'll build the building. We want to do this thing right. We want to do the right thing. We don't want, some temporary building going to just, trash and throw away when it's done. So they incorporated this into a larger image and a larger project, and that's where things really took off. The next question was, what's the building supposed to look like? What are you going to build on that site? And here was where, you know, we had to deal with kind of historic issues. We're trying to create this historic ambiance for this area. This is a critical piece of the history. So we went back to kind of looking at the images of what kinds of buildings were on this site in 2025. And here, if you look at this, this is the canal coming in to the right. It was much wider here because that was kind of a marshy area that was open. And right about there is where the end of the slip is now. This is a bill, I just highlighted that building to kind of, so you could see where that was. So that's where we were going to build a building. But what is it going to look like? So we went back and looked at as many historical images of buildings that were on that site. This is the building over here. There's the commercial slip coming in here. Here's another representation of it. That's the building that would later become the Naval Park. So as we were drawing pictures, we were trying to work out the details of what we needed in the building and so forth, kind of came up with some rough ideas of this building with the traditional 19th century false fronts on it. Well, at that point, Hamilton House and Lowney, who were under contract with ECHDC, the architects, set to work on the building. We had long discussions and conversations with them about size, about what we needed, and so forth and so on. And these are just some of the working drawings of that, how we spent hours kind of working this over. We wanted more space, cutting in, cutting out, and so forth, all the kind of compromises that are necessary in that kind of a project. And they came up with this plan, which was absolutely fabulous, and everybody was on the same page. And I have to compliment Hamilton House and Lowney for their grasping of the concept of this building with this kind of historic overtones and so forth. Everything fit together. And again, what could be better than to be on that site at that point when you're trying to make a historical point or create a historical ambiance? This is the building under construction. Of course, it was much was slowed down by the COVID epidemic, but here it is. I think this was in late July or early August. And as we made visits to the building during the process, I was, and my colleagues were like overwhelmed with the quality of the building. I mean, it's like, and if you go down to visit it now, you'll be aware of this. And I felt very positive about this in the sense that one of the things we're teaching and we're doing with the boat itself is emphasizing and focusing on craftsmanship. And to be in a building that is actually built with such a high level of craftsmanship was quite fortuitous. This is another view of it. And also the quality of the materials in it. I mean, my colleague said he just drools to see all this cedar siding without a single knot in it. It's like, that's boat building material. It's almost a waste to use that on a building because it would be so good in a boat. Anyway, here's some images of it. This is the interior of it for the opening. We're just moving in. We just started moving in on a week ago, a Wednesday. Yeah, Thursday, Wednesday. And we have set up the keel for the boat. Much of this has been done at the shop already, and set up one single center section of the boat. And this is, you can see this here, up above here is a gallery where people can come in and visit as the project is going on. They can talk to people working on the boat. We're going to get as much interaction as possible on this. This is that gallery. You can get a sense of the floor space. They put in a floor here that this floor can be taken up. I mean, we can mess up the floor as much as possible over the next couple of years. And then it can be taken up and restored if the building needs to be used for something else. We'd like to build another boat in it after this finishes. But this is going to be the product. And when we finish the boat, we're going to take about 2.5 years to build the boat. So about 2023 or so, the boat will be launched. We'll launch it right next to the building there. And the plan is that we're going to take this boat down the Erie Canal, and we are going to work a lot of the little towns, kind of showboat version, the sort of spirit of taking the spirit of Buffalo down the canal, and then preparing people for the bicentennial. And then the ultimate commemoration will be doing a reenactment of the opening of the Erie Canal, the wedding of the waters. And as I like to say, the governor, we'd like to have the governor on board, as DeWitt Clinton was, whoever she might be, or he might be. So that will be a kind of a reenactment of the wedding of the waters. And then the boat will basically be an iconic piece of Buffalo's heritage and something that we will use for years to come, working back and forth along the canal. We're also looking to the 2025, the International World Canals Conference. We're hoping to hold that in Buffalo, and this will be a critical piece of that. So I'll leave it right there. I think I almost got it under time there. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer it.
Good. John, that was outstanding. Melissa, do we have any questions that you've seen from the audience?
Yeah, Dennis John actually is. So is this Longshed building now open to the public? When can people come visit?
Well, we had it open to the public on Saturday. We had a kind of a public visitation on Saturday. We're now getting our active. We are sort of half moved in. We're still moving machinery in. We're still moving materials in and so forth. But I would say probably in a couple of weeks we'll be having regular visits. We're working on a volunteer coordinators to figure out how we can incorporate people work. We have a lot of people already signed up that want to work on the boat, and that will be kind of one category of people visiting. The other is that we are still kind of finishing off the gallery up above, which will be a visitor's gallery. You'll enter by the door on the north and go up onto that mezzanine. You'll be able to talk to people down below and so forth. So that will be open fairly soon. We're trying to just get our act together. We're still recovering from the opening itself. But the idea is down the road, we want as many people to pass through this as possible. One of the brilliant things I must say about the design of the building is that it has windows all the way around. So you don't need to feel like a peeping Tom by looking in to see what's going on. And as much as possible, we'll have those doors open so people will be able to see what kind of activities are going on. One of the things I should add to this is, speaking of visitors, is that one of the things we want to do with this project is that we want to do something similar to what Buffalo did when the Amistad, the slave ship, came to Buffalo. And they had the banks involved, they had the universities involved, the public schools, they had the libraries, had everybody reading the same book. There were discussion groups and so forth. There was like a groundswell of community activity focused around this subject. And we think this project can be that kind of experience. So we're looking forward to doing that. We've got 2025 is sort of the big move, but a lot's going to happen in the area before that.
You know, time becomes precious here in this short half hour. This project, John, I see is central to next year, not just 2025, but next year's 200th anniversary bicentennial of Erie County. And as such, I hope to have you back in the late spring and bring us up to date. Is that a deal?
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right, and then we can cover this. In the meantime, folks, certainly check out the website for our speaker and share this with your friends. I'm gonna thank you so much for joining us today. We so appreciate this new format and thank the Buffalo and Erie County Public Library again for hosting this virtual Imagine program. Join us next week, same time, same Zoom link, when we talk to Kara Fasana, Communications and Development Manager at Western New York Land Conservancy. We're going to hear about the College Lodge Forest Project in Chautauqua County, just outside of Fredonia. So please alert your friends and networks interested in the Imagine series 4th Tuesday theme of nature and science. I'm Dennis Galucki. Be well, be safe, and have a good day.
Thank you, Dennis.
You're welcome, John. Thank you.